So here we are, Southwark Crown Court,
Here we are.
and you've just been through this experience of being sentenced. So what do you have to say?
It's a very long sentence. It's 12 months of a supervision order, so I'll have to go and be interviewed a few times until they put me in the right place to have someone who's going to watch over me, to do 120 hours of community service sort of work of some sort. And even though I earn between £50 and £100 a week selling fairy tales, I've somehow to come up with £1,100 worth of court costs.
Why didn't you speak to the judge about that and say, look...
I'm not allowed to speak to the judge.
Right.
I tried to speak to my counsel when things that were run through being read off paper were being read out, and where the judge was misunderstanding the chronological order of events. And
Why did you choose not to represent yourself?
because of the amount of trouble it would have brought on top of me. No other reason. And I wish that I had just represented myself anyway, in all honesty. So anyone who's out there who believes that if they plead guilty for something that they have done and thinks that simply being honest will help them, it doesn't help at all. Because the judgment that's on you for being in there is that you're guilty in the first place to be there. And they must treat you in that way, otherwise it's too much work. It's too much understanding. The judge makes all his decisions based on things that are written down on paper by people who work for the same system. So the police have written things in such a way as they're fully backed up. They back each other up in everything that they say. They hide certain little things. They put in innuendos, and those innuendos are what get picked up by the court. It all ends up being written down in a final version for the judge to read. And he'll read your interviews and stuff. But they're looking at it from the point of view of you must be guilty to have gotten in trouble in the first place. They look at you from the point of view of you've caused work for the police, and therefore there must be punishment for that. They work from a basis that this society needs law and order. It needs thousands and thousands and thousands of laws because people can't be trusted. It gives no way for an individual to stand in court. We think when we go to court that I'll stand in court and they'll see my honesty, they'll see my truth, they'll see my nature. But I sat in that court in all honesty, in all simplicity, with my energies very neutral and very open, allowing a lot of sensations to run through me. A lot of fear, a lot of defensiveness, a lot of denial, a lot of this isn't true, a lot of how can this be happening to me? And you've got to just let it all flow through you, otherwise you end up with more things to have to heal, with more chips on your shoulder, with more reasons to go out there and try and gain some sort of personal justice, because what's being dished out in national justice isn't justice at all. And it's certainly not what we think of as justice. So I'm sitting in there so that the judge can see me in the present moment and feel me in the present moment and make a decision based on his own sense of feeling. The man looked at me perhaps 4 times in the whole thing. Apart from that, he looks to the prosecution and the defence. He speaks to them and he looks at pieces of paper, and they all look at pieces of paper, and they look at how much of a sentence should we give based on all these pieces of paper. And what they've done is kind of ruined my life to a large degree. I cannot now go and see my son in America. Could possibly never even go to America because of this criminal record that I have. So the justice of this whole situation ends up being that because I was upset that my son had been taken off to America and I not really told about it, and when I found out I was upset, and when I was upset I got drunk, and while I was drunk somebody rang the police, and when the police came I didn't think it was a good thing for them to be arresting me, and for all of that it ends up that I cannot now see my son. So I have a theory that the justice system is actually the Antichrist. And in the Bible, that you must swear on in the church, where you worship justice, it says in the Bible that Christians will be persecuted by the Antichrist. And that's exactly what I see happening here every day. is the Antichrist picking on people who are not aligned with the Antichrist and taking them out, sniping them, picking them up and disempowering. So that these people who run this justice system, these people who run the monetary system, these people who essentially work for the Antichrist, they get to stay in power. They get to drink a couple of bottles of wine every night to relax after their day's work. And everyone else either goes to jail or is watched over by the system or just has to pay money. If you're making enough money off the Antichrist system of monetary control, then you can pay for your freedom. And the Antichrist is quite happy. But if you're a Christian and you just do good works, if you're a nature person and you just work with nature, if you do things out of the goodness of your heart, then you'll get a big long sentence, which will confuse you a lot. And so the overall impression is, have nothing to do with the police, have nothing to do with the courts. Plead guilty, try and get off as light as you can. Know that you're innocent of what's been accused, know that what's written on paper is not the truth whatsoever, but know there's nothing you can do about that, because it's written on paper. And that's all that these people believe.
Unless there is something you can do.
There's no wisdom of Solomon involved in this.
No, but unless there is something you can do, which is the whole free man thing, which is a whole another discussion, and just throwing that in, which you chose not to do for your own reasons.
For fear. For fear of how big the system is. For fear that there are police everywhere. For fear that to speak truth in court is called contempt. And for curiosity, for life experience, to see what would happen. So I've chosen not to do the free man thing simply because this is beyond fear, really. But I've chosen not to do the free man thing because it's fighting. And I chose not to fight. And to take on this punishment, and so what? At least I'm free of the justice system, and I have a lot of experience now to know more about the world. And I have full faith that this false society around us, this monetary society, this control system, something must be happening beneath the surface. Like I said earlier, either there is spirituality or I've really wasted my life. But what I feel is going on is a lot, because I can feel, and the judge in there can't feel. That was very evident today. There's no feeling in that man. There's just a duty to his belief system, and a belief system doesn't have feelings. But I still have my feelings, and my feelings are not aligned against the world. There was anger when I was arrested. There was huge rage in me that my son had been taken away, and that there's so much injustice in this world. And I've put that rage to peace inside of myself. So what matters some money with regard to having healed myself of rage? And 120 hours of community service, I don't mind. I love community service. I don't know what the experience is going to be like in this structured community service, but nonetheless I'll enjoy the people that are there, and I'll be real, and I'll be open, and I'll be honest, and I'll help people, and people will help me. And the system, somehow the system will change. My current theory is it'll change by people being able to feel, and that eventually those who can't feel won't be able to stay living on this earth. And perhaps when love comes back to earth in a big wave sometime soon, that's a great big wave of emotion, of feeling all the things that people denied feeling before now. And when that wave comes, well, I hope enough people will have learned how to feel before that wave comes, because the more people have learned how to feel before that wave comes, is the more people will be able to hold the vibration of love on this planet. when other people who haven't been feeling the consequences of their actions, the consequences of their not feeling what's really happening in this world, I think they'll commit suicide, or they'll be in armies and they'll shoot each other, or they'll be in criminal gangs and they'll be violent towards each other. But to me, I think it'll all sort itself out.
Thank
I
you.
think it's all sorting itself out right now.
Thank you.
Peace be.